Okay, seniors. So this is a bit of a review of our study in Genesis, and we've been looking at Genesis, gender, and marriage over the last several days. And this is a little review of our discussion in Genesis chapter 3. So as a class, we took time to kind of read through the text in Genesis, and you can do that on your own. And then after we did that, we kind of looked at what are the results of Adam and Eve's sin and how that relates to marriage. And the four key terms would be shame and guilt and fear and blaming. So these are the things that result from the sin and the fall of Adam and Eve. And so, where before Adam and Eve were naked and not ashamed, and that's one of the last things that's said in Genesis 2, now they're hiding and they're trying to cover themselves. Um, and being naked and unashamed is this way of certainly stating this perfect relationship, perfect openness that they have with each other, complete trust. But sin breaks that. And there's guilt. And so as they hear the Lord approaching, they hide from God. And they know they're guilty. That's why they hide. And then there's fear. Adam confesses when God asks a question, who told you that you were naked? Or where are you, Adam? And Adam confesses that he is fearful because he heard God coming and he knew he was naked. And so instead of having this freedom to just be who he is before God, now sin breaks this relationship and it causes him to want to cover up and hide things from God. We also took some time to look at the reality that in the text, God asks a number of questions. Where are you? And then later he asks Adam, who told you that you were naked? And then he asked the question, have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? And we spent some time discussing the fact that when God asks questions, it's not because he's looking for answers or he needs information. But in fact, what he's doing, he's giving Adam and Eve an opportunity to tell the truth, to confess. And notice too, we spent some time looking at this as well, and I'll highlight this in a different color. That when Adam gives an answer to, who told you you're naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? He says, the woman, and then he says that you gave me. So his blaming here, which we're going to get to, Adam not only blames Eve, but he also blames God for his sinful actions. And this is again what sin does. It undoes all the good that God has established. In Genesis 1, it was good, 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 and then it's very good. And sin, as the text says here, our fallen nature lures us to believe that everyone and everything else is the cause of my problems. All the arrows are pointing out. And then there's this reality that this last kind of really awful thing that happens is what's called the battle for control. And we watched a video, and in that video, which I will put a link on in the Plus Portal site, it says, instead of completing each other, Adam and Eve began to compete with each other. And in marriage, both Satan and our flesh would have us believe that the real enemy is our mate. And the reality is that the real enemy is both Satan, the ways of this world, and our own sinful desires, not our spouse. They're the ones that are going to help us. And so now, instead of Adam and Eve being able to trust each other, the shame, the guilt, the fear, and the blaming have led to a battle of control. And so when we get to the end, Adam is told that the ground is going to be cursed. And for Eve, the blessing that she was going to bring, which is bringing children into the world, she's going to have pain. And that her desire is going to be for her husband, and he's going to rule over you. And that's, again, that battle for control. And then when we got to the end, I just kind of reminded students and gave them the opportunity to say, okay, well, talk with your parents about all the things that we've been learning in Genesis 1, 2, and 3. Share with them some of the things that you've written down, particularly your reflections for our conclusions in Genesis 2. These are all the conclusions that go with that. And in some of the reflections that you wrote down in Genesis 1. And these are all the truths that go with that. So hopefully this has been just a helpful review and reminder of some of the things that we discussed and talked about when it comes to Genesis 3. And again, you can look for the link to the video that we played, and it's a clip from The Art of Marriage from Family Life. That's where a lot of this material here comes from.